Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. It is an absolutely astonishingly lovely Sunday. It is the 2022 version of, I think, September the 24th. You are back here with me, Sean Butler, at the Spurs Talk Show alongside my forever partner, Bugsy Malone, currently off in the distance, enjoying herself with a little crew of dogs. Welcome back as we bring you episode 53 of Tottenham Walks. Guys, I hope wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing, as always, that you are doing things that you love with the people that you love doing them with, and that you're generally happy and healthy. I really appreciate you spending a couple of minutes with me this morning as we talk a little bit more about Fabio Paratici, if I'm honest. It's another slow news day. It's another really slow news day, so bear with me. But there has been an announcement via the Tottenham Hotspur website that another partnership has been struck, this time with Malaga City FC, who is an academy. They are an academy that has... How many do they have? They have young players from 35 countries and 6 continents that are learning their trade from the ages of about 12 to about 17. Guys, before we start talking about the relationship, if you wouldn't mind doing me an absolute solid, it would mean the world to me. If you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and smash that notification bell. It is the best way to find content that is just dropping on this channel. And as I say, generally speaking, outside of international breaks, we go live, but we have to go live impromptu. Such is the work-life balance that yours truly has to work around. So having the notification bell tapped will give you the best chance to be able to see the live streams when they happen in real time. Moving forward, guys, let me just talk to you quickly about this, right? So you may or may not be aware of the concept of feeder clubs. I'm sure you are. But there was a note dropped today. I'm going to move away from the feeder club thing for a second and just talk about, there was a couple of people talking earlier about Tottenham's interest in Brazilian Wonderkid Endrick, who plays for Palmeiras. Well, he plays for the Palmeiras under 21 teams. Brazilian superstar. Now, I've used my tools, not just YouTube, but I've gone into detail using Y-Scout and looked at this kid playing as a 16-year-old in Brazil, and he does look the absolute business, an absolute superstar waiting to happen, no doubt about it. But he has a 40 million euro release clause. Tottenham and Newcastle are apparently the interested parties, and alongside certain European clubs, I think Paris Saint-Germain are touted as being the favourites to get his signature. Barcelona have already told Palmeiras that they're not in the financial position to be able to accommodate such a fee. But the noise is coming out of Brazil and coming out of Europe that Tottenham and Newcastle alongside Paris Saint-Germain are the favourites for this kid's signature. Now, to me, whilst it sounds super exciting and super interesting, the reality is that as a Brazilian, he won't get a work permit into the UK anytime soon. Never going to happen. So I don't want to kind of dampen anyone's enthusiasm, but first of all, go and look him up, Endrick. Like, he does look like an absolute talent. But he won't be playing for Tottenham. Tottenham couldn't sign him. And so, as a consequence, I thought what I would do is look into the ways that you could get access to a player like that in the future by linking him, signing him now to somewhere else where you have first dibs. And as such, the concept of feeder clubs came into my consciousness. Now, Tottenham Hotspur have we're not new to the idea of feeder clubs, right? Tottenham Hotspur have in the past, let me get my details out, we had a relationship with San Jose Earthquakes in 2008, a methodology to access talent in the North American pool. This isn't something that Tottenham just do as well. I'm just going to reel off some of the other teams that we compete with in the Premier League that also have participated in feeder clubs over the years. Liverpool had a relationship with Genk that was signed in 2010. Arsenal had a relationship from 2007 with Colorado Rapids. Manchester United still have a relationship with Royal Antwerp. Manchester City had relationships with Melbourne City and New York City, the Red Bulls, I think they are, going all the way back. And Chelsea had a relationship with Vitesse Arnhem. So feeder clubs, the concept of a feeder club, for those of you that are unfamiliar, is essentially the owners of your football team will purchase some level of ownership or some level of rights via a partnership agreement that players that can or could potentially be accessible to your first team in the future can develop their skills in competitive leagues that are of a lower standard, and that if that player becomes develops to the level where his potential is starting to be recognised and realised, then the owner club, the feeder club's parent, will have the first dibs on that player. Now, I don't know the details of whether Tottenham or any of the other clubs I've just mentioned have ever really utilised much of the access that was available from San Jose Earthquakes or Genk or the Rapids or Antwerp or City in Melbourne, New York City in New York, or Vitesse Arnhem. But what I can tell you is that it was only last year, October 2021, that the news broke that Tottenham were trying to forge a relationship and set up a new feeder club entity with Standard Liège in Belgium. Now, I don't know, and I couldn't find out in enough time to get this out there, but anyone who's done the research can hopefully enlighten me in the comments below. But as far as I'm aware, that deal hasn't been struck. But the reason why I find it interesting that Tottenham have forged this relationship with Malaga City FC is that whether or not the Standard Liège relationship emerges, I would imagine that it would be far easier to take these kids from, if there's any talent that's in that pool, put them into Standard Liège and then see how they do in the Belgium league, and then obviously move them on in the future. But on top of that, the one thing we have to be a little bit concerned about is Todd Boehly, the new Chelsea the Chelsea owner. He's obviously coming in and doing his own thing. He's trying to rewrite Chelsea, redevelop Chelsea under his own vision to replace the outgoing Roman Abramovich. But in the last couple of weeks, we've already seen relationships that are being apparently forged with several clubs that Chelsea are trying to build these feeder relationships with. One of them is Troyes in France, Troyes, that's spelled Troyes. Another is Lommel SK in Belgium. Another is Grona in Spain. Might be butchering those names. And the last is also the relationship with Melbourne City and New York. The same ownership that Manchester City had relationships with back about a decade ago. So I don't know if there's much to it, right? But I just wanted to alert to you guys the history of feeder clubs, the history of the problems bringing players like Endrick from Brazil to the UK. It doesn't happen directly, and since Brexit it never happens directly. You can't get them work permits. So if Tottenham want to be able to utilise some of the new scouts that they've hired for the South American League, which they have, by the way, and we spoke about some of them yesterday, then they're going to need access points into the European market where they can then get work permits or passports, etc. And relationships with other clubs is pivotal in doing that. If Chelsea are moving in that direction, and like I say, Melbourne, New York, Grona, Lommel SK and Troyes are just a few of the clubs that Chelsea have been linked with, then it will be interesting to find out whether or not Tottenham can utilise their new relationship with Malaga City FC, this academy, and whether that in itself is enough for us to find potential new talent under the Paratici rebuild of all things back office, all things football development, and or whether or not Tottenham need also a relationship, a feeder club structure with a team such as Standard Liège. And I'll put the links in the description below to the articles where we can look at the relationships between Standard Liège and Tottenham back in, I think it was October or November of 2021, about the same time that Antonio Conte joined the club. For me, it's just interesting, a little bit more insight on what's happening behind the scenes. I hope this hasn't been too boring for you guys. It is super slow weekend for news, but I'm trying to bring you some sort of content every single day. I hope you don't mind. Bear with me. I'm sure as the week progresses and we move towards Tottenham Arsenal, there'll be so much more exciting and more relevant here and now things to talk about. I love you guys. Like, share and subscribe. Subscribe even. And as always, guys, bye-bye.